On this live, I want to talk about one of the biggest realizations that I had after studying with my teacher, Don Miguel Ruiz, for many years. He didn't really present it to me like I'm going to present it to you, because he came from the Toltec community and a Toltec background. So I kind of had to put this together on my own to figure out the fastest way that I could share this reflection so people could get it without it being too abstract and easy to understand, and not take 15 or 20 years to be able to get it. So that's what I'm going to do. And what I'd like to do, the topic is going to be understanding your frequency. And it's when I talk about frequency, that word is used a lot in radio or television, but everything is energy. So every single thought, every single word that we speak, and then when we put an emotion on top of that, it amplifies the thought or the word. Sounds obvious, it's pretty obvious. However, depending on what the thought is and the emotion we put on it, okay, so it's either going to raise our frequency or lower it. So love being the highest frequency, and the lowest frequencies are obviously hate, anger, fear, unworthiness. So this is all common sense, right? So what the big aha moment that I had well into my mentorship with Miguel was that we are projecting onto a hologram. It's a vibrating holographic field, and we call it life. Now, I never thought of it that way ever when I was first learning this stuff. I just thought that shit happens. I'm happy in one moment, I'm doing the best I can in life, and some people are lucky, some people aren't, and just got to roll with it. And it wasn't until I really started to understand frequencies and what I shared about every thought, every word, and then putting an emotion on top of that. Those are the building blocks of what's showing up in the hologram. Now, what so many people don't understand is that they think that everything that's happening out there in the external is just happening randomly. And to a certain extent, the collective consciousness is certainly involved in creating what we call that external dream. However, for our own dream and our own journey, it's such a trip. There's such a delay here that I'm seeing myself like 30 seconds later, and it's a little bit distracting, so I'm switching my screen. So to get back on track, most people are reacting to what they're seeing in the external world, and the ego, because of separation at birth, goes into judgment. And so it's judging what's happening in the external world, and it's not realizing that the external world is mirroring back to us our thoughts, our words, and then the emotion that we put on top of that to amplify it. Either a high vibrational amplification of a loving thought, joy, something happy, humor, kindness, or a very low vibrational thought that's getting amplified, such as fear, hatred, unworthiness, jealousy, just triggers. So every judgment is actually a trigger. And the reason why I wrote a book, or actually a whole chapter in my book, Waking Up in the Dream, around judgment, is number one, I realized that I was taught to be a judgeaholic. Yeah. I grew up going to Catholic schools. I was wearing a little uniform with a bow tie, and there were some angry nuns there. I remember this one nun, Sister Mary Teresa. She was like 75 years young, and she was seething with anger, probably because she figured out the whole thing was a lie, and she gave up her entire life to be focusing on an external God or something. I don't know. I don't want to get into religion and upset anybody, but I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic schools, and I was an altar boy in church until 9th grade. So the programming was very deep with me, and it was 99% fear, guilt, shame, and judgment, with a little bit of love thrown in the background. But if you're good enough, you'll get to go to heaven and you won't go to hell. Well, by the time I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, me and my buddies, which were all straight A and B students, we were pretty much going to hell already for looking at the opposite sex or saying a cuss word, major sins. So it wasn't until later that I figured out how the hologram works. And in the courses that I do, I explain it as pretty much everything that we see until we understand this concept is like 180 degrees the opposite of how it's actually operating. So that's why people react to things that are happening in the external. They judge it and they get triggered. And I'll go deeper into this. Now, why do people go into judgment and why do people get triggered? This is a really big piece of what I'm going to explain, but I intend to explain it in a simple way. So many of you probably already understand this, but I have to start somewhere. And I'm just reminding myself, there may not be anybody else out there. If we really break down what's happening inside of our heads, this is all happening with chemical reactions. I'm talking through thin air right now. I don't even know if I'm talking to anybody, you know, and my teacher taught me we're dreaming all the time. So I'm just going to roll with it the best I can and have fun with it. So we end up taking on information after we're about 2 years old and we can comprehend, we start to learn words, beliefs. We're handed a lot of stories. We're told a lot of things to do. What's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong, do this, don't do that. And so what happens is we're sponges at that young age. And so we take on information from the external world. We haven't been taught yet about intuition, although we have it, we're born with it. Call it your higher self, call it your direct channel to your God source, unlimited source. But we take on this information from our parents, our grandparents, school, religion, history, and the biggest programming machine on the planet, which is the television. And it's the number one reason why people are at odds with everybody. Quite amazing. But people are waking up. So to piece this together, why do we judge and why do we get triggered? Well, because the ego was set up to protect us. And so we end up having a belief system. That's all that information that's downloaded from our parents, our grandparents, school, religion, history, all this stuff. And for most of us, we end up finding out that so much of that is a lie. And it's quite shocking at first because it's upsetting to go your entire life. I went 35 plus years and then started figuring out that most everything I was told was a lie, except for love is the answer in every situation. That's the highest vibration. And then later on, you know, tuning into the fact that I am a sovereign divine being. We're all sovereign divine beings. We came down here to experience this journey and many other things, but that's to be interpreted by everybody else. I don't want to project that onto anybody because you know what? I really don't know. I know nothing. I've learned to follow frequency. So that's the topic for right now, frequency. Understanding frequency, what it is, how it works with the mirror, the hologram, the vibrating hologram that we're working in, understanding that Every thought, every word, and every emotion carries a frequency. Pretty simple, right? So then we get this belief system. And the belief system that comes from all these external sources is really kind of like taking an empty vessel and plugging in like a thumb drive with all this external information on it. So now you've got all this external information for people that tell you what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. And then you decide what I like, what I don't like. And so anything that goes against one's belief system, which again, keep in mind, it's nothing more than information for the most part that came from external sources. Doesn't mean it's true. It might be true for you, but you see everybody, or so many people, they will defend their belief system and their beliefs to the death. Now, why is that? Why would somebody be so attached to defending their belief system? The only reason would be because they don't see how the dream works, how they've been programmed, what the belief system is, and why the ego reacts automatically and gets triggered into judgment and lower frequencies, or a higher frequency if it's reacting to love or kindness or compassion or humor. But the ego wants to protect and defend. So any incoming information that goes against one's belief system automatically triggers the ego. Automatically, defense system comes up. So we have people running around that are trigger happy. Until you figure out how this works and how you get mirrored back your frequencies, you're going to be what I call in the book an automatic reactor every time, because you just think that you're doing the right thing. I was a judgeaholic, and not because I wanted to be mean. I've always had a kind heart. You know, I believe. There may be other people from my past that say that wasn't true at one time, and I'm open to doing that. I've made a lot of mistakes. I was trigger happy like everybody else. I didn't understand, and I did the best that I could. So what I was doing, the way I became a judgeaholic, was I mistakenly thought that if I pointed out everything in the external world that I thought was wrong and that wasn't coming from love, somehow that would shine more light on it and it would get it to shift. But here's what actually happens with the frequency of projected thoughts, words, and emotions, either knowingly, which we could call consciously, or unknowingly, subconsciously. They get projected onto the vibrating hologram. And what happens is, think of it like this. Every judgment is an energy, but we don't necessarily see them. We can definitely feel them, which is the next step to the key of beginning to dissolve this stuff. And I'll get to that in a minute, because it's a frequency. And we can feel frequencies when we get in touch with our body, even a slight little judgment, because there is a big difference energetically. And I'll preface it with this. Some people say, well, Jeff, we have to judge. It's our nature. Not so. We've been taught to judge. And there's a difference between a judgment and an observation. An observation is neutral energy-wise. A judgment is low vibrational because it's a trigger, and it either comes from fear or the ego's need to defend and be right. If you get this, it could change everything in your life for you. So I'll say it again. There's a difference between a judgment and an observation. An observation is just looking at something. Well, okay. Now, the ego's probably going to have some type of frequency about it, like, oh, I like that. That's a beautiful light. Oh, those trees are beautiful. That's a beautiful flower. That could be considered, or would be considered, a high frequency. However, when we look at things and we declare that they are wrong, we're basically sending out an invisible frequency, And because the hologram, think of frequencies, thoughts, words, and emotions as magnetic, is the best way I can explain it. And so every thought, word, and emotion is going to magnetically attract a like frequency. So what I didn't realize when I was a judgeaholic and I was believing that if I pointed out all these things that were wrong in the external mirror, that somehow they would get fixed. Somehow people would notice it and they'd go, oh, yeah, we need to fix that. And maybe that happens in some cases through conscious awareness, in the sharing of conscious awareness in society. You see a lot of that happening right now, which is great. The purpose of this share is to own your own frequency, because that's the place to start. Because it's quite possible that there are no others. And again, this is all happening inside of our heads. So you can explore that on your own. That's a topic for another discussion. I can't prove that either way, and that's why I just tune into frequencies. And love, kindness, and compassion are the highest frequencies that are going to attract more of that. It's just law. It's energetic law. And anger, judgment, shame, guilt, unworthiness, fear, doubt, and hatred, those are really low frequencies. And you will begin to see more of that if that's the frequency that you're holding. So I intend that there's some light bulb moments on this. I don't know. I mean, to me, this is so completely life-changing that when I figured this out, it still took me probably years to figure out a system to track my judgments, because they're automatic. The ego just goes, don't like it, like that, don't like it. And so the average person is running 50 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And most of them are just recycling all day long without awareness. And somebody like Bruce Lipton, who I appreciate him, and Dr. Joe Dispenza, they will say that out of those 50 to 80,000 thoughts a day, about 80% of those for the average person are negative and low vibrational thoughts. So what do you think we're attracting into our hologram, into our lives? Relationship-wise, cycling through relationships, attracting the same person, the same characteristic, having to learn the same lessons over and over again, and not being able to figure out, why do I keep attracting the same stuff? Why can't I attract money into my life? Why do I attract the same type of people in relationships? Why am I angry all the time? Why do I get triggered? Why do people seem to come up and challenge me? Frequency. Frequency. The frequencies that we're holding. The thoughts, the words, and the emotions that we're vibrating at, that we're holding, either consciously or unconsciously, and then the ones that we're projecting through our words, our thoughts, and our emotions. And so, how do we begin to track this stuff? How do we begin to stop running on automatic pilot and being subjected to the ego's decades and decades of learned reaction, of automatic reaction mode, and step into what I call conscious observation, moment to moment conscious observation. So the people that come in to the Waking Up in the Dream 30-day transformational experience groups, this is explained to them on the first call. They receive the book, Waking Up in the Dream. And then we start to do mirroring with each person. And mirroring is where they ask the questions about something they don't understand about energy, frequency, thoughts, triggers, judgments. And then we create a safe, sacred space where people can feel safe to share things that they have questions about. And most of the wounds happened when we were children. We took on these energies, these stories, these frequencies from other people because they were just projecting their learned behaviors. And, 100 years ago when our grandparents were born, give or take, and then our parents, there weren't a lot of people, if anybody, talking about conscious awareness, frequencies, waking up. It was basically survival. So we're really living in a great time right now, and we came here for this. We came here to play a role in this. And so this is very powerful stuff. And so to get back to tracking, how do you track and how do you stop the automatic reactions, judgments, and triggers from running so you stop attracting all of that magnetically coming to you in your life, in the vibrating hologram? One judgment or one negative thought isn't necessarily going to attract the light thing into your life, your hologram. However, when you're running that stuff all day long, over and over and over, it's law. So that's what you're going to attract. Now, why didn't anybody teach us this in school? Why didn't anybody teach me this in church? Oh, beginning to get it? The system. They didn't want you to wake up. The cat's out of the bag. And this is the most powerful tool that I know of to shift your frequency and awaken and undo all of this negative and low frequency programming. But the beauty of it is we can undo and remove decades of automatic reactionary program, childhood wounds, trauma, no matter what happened to you. And we can undo it in a really quick amount of time. I see people's lives change every single month from doing 4 weeks in that group. And to me, it's the most fast track way that I've ever seen. And I've spent probably close to $50,000 on workshops in the last 20 to 25 years. And I haven't found anything that will consistently go in and explain to somebody how that's working and then give them the tools to track it every day. We have everybody go out in the group and get a golf clicker. You carry it with them. You can wear it around your neck on a chain. People ask you, what's that about? Are you a coach? No, I'm tracking my thoughts and my emotions. Oh, wow. Tell me more about that. Or they'll think you're crazy and they're not ready. But I found nothing faster that will begin to undo all of that automatic programming and stop the cycles. And then the most powerful thing is the mirroring that goes on in the group. And the reason why this cuts through decades of childhood wounds and programming is because one cannot change what they cannot see. So when people ask a question and I get to mirror them on the call, everybody gets to see the process. And so the aha moments start happening. And that's when the revelations are just like, oh my God. And once you begin to see it, the beauty of it is you can't unsee it. You'll never be able to see it. You may be able to fall back into, okay, I'm having a bad day, whatever. And people really don't have a bad day if you want to really get down to it. What happens is people have a triggered moment and then they don't take the breath, which we teach in the course. As soon as you have a judgment, that's a trigger. Even if it's a little judgment, little sticky one. You notice it and you learn to take a breath. You can feel the frequency of a judgment in your body when you begin to tune into this. And it happens very quickly with just a little bit of practice. It'll change everything for you. So you feel the judgment or the trigger, could be big or small. You immediately know to take a breath. And then you ask the most powerful and freeing question ever. What is this trying to teach me? I just got triggered. I know it's about me because I've learned how the hologram works. Nobody can make me judge or anything. or be triggered unless they're physically assaulting you. Common sense, okay? But when we're talking about thoughts and seeing something happening in the external world, yeah, your heart can go out to people, or you can feel really sad if somebody dies or gets hurt or abused. I'm talking about triggers and judgments, reactionary things where you can't be triggered or go into judgment unless you're holding that frequency in your holographic body or your energetic field. Because what will happen is when you begin to awaken and understand this, anything that you see that would trigger you or that you would judge, you'll notice it, but you'll understand frequency and you'll go, instead of judging that, whether it's pedophiles, people in government, people in the Vatican, people that are doing horrible stuff, I learned if I judge them, I'm giving them energy, and I'm attaching an invisible energetic cord in the hologram to that which I'm judging and triggered by. So what do? You take a breath and you send compassion. And you say, thank you for playing your role in this dream. I don't like it, but it's in my dream. And understanding how frequencies work, I'm not going to give that any more energy to grow. So I'm going to send the highest frequency that I know of, which is love, onto that. Now, if I'm in a situation where I see somebody physically assaulting somebody or something and I can do something about it, yeah, I'm going to probably step in and do something. But I'm talking about 99% of the daily things that we go through that are just thought-based judgments and triggers, thought-based judgments and triggers. I was a judgeaholic, you know, and I think most people are, until they begin to figure this out. And a lot of it depends, obviously, on your background, your upbringing. Who were you around? Were you really loved growing up? Were you encouraged? Or, you know, I had a couple people in my life that just judged me big time for years and years and years. And they probably saw the good in me, but they didn't focus on that. They were talking down to me, and that stuff sticks. You know, so, but the good news is this can be undone very quickly. And so it looks like I've been going a while. I don't know who's still with me. It's hard to tell. Oh, I got 11 people. Okay, great. So if there's any questions about any of this, or if anybody is interested to go a little bit deeper, I do offer free, and I mean free, complimentary discovery calls. And I'll post a link in the comments. I'm not going to go yet because I want to do a frequency meditation, and I'm going to bring out my favorite bowl here in a second. But what I want to say is we're starting another group on Sunday, and there's a call for 4 weeks, a 2-hour call, and we go really deep. And if you're interested in any of this and it resonates with you, reach out to me. I'm not a salesy guy. I don't like that. I'll be happy to get on a call and mirror you. And I promise you, you'll probably take something away very powerful. The course is ridiculously affordable. And I've never turned away anybody that truly, really wanted to do it. But you got to be invested, or you're not going to take it seriously. The value of what is provided in this course can't even be measured. It can't be measured in dollars. It's truly life-changing. And all you have to do is show up and be open and be willing to be authentic and be vulnerable and ask questions. So I'm going to post a link when I finish. And if you want to get on and do a complimentary call and pick my brain on anything, I'm happy to do that because it brings me great joy. And believe it or not, I'm learning something from everybody. Remember this. This is very powerful key as well. Everybody is your teacher, especially the people that you judge and that trigger you. The ego doesn't think so. It thinks it's the opposite. I only learn from people that are smart and cool. That's the 180-degree trick of the ego right there. The greatest teachers, well, many of the greatest teachers. I mean, let's just take it for granted that, yeah, when we're loving and people are loving to us, that's great. That's a great teaching. It's a great frequency because love is the highest frequency. That's why we're here. That's who we are at our core. That's where we came from, universal pure love. However, as far as talking about awakening on our journey and advancing through higher dimensions, it's all frequency. Years ago, this was never really talked about. So we're moving pretty quick here, even though it doesn't seem like we are in a lot of cases, you know, but we can all speed this up by joining together and sharing this information. And so I intend that you found this valuable. For me, it absolutely changed everything. Everything. I can't imagine where I'd be today. I'd probably be dead because I was killing a lot of pain with alcohol and just, I don't know. I didn't know how to deal with this stuff. And I was a good guy. I would attract, you know, good people into my life and good women in relationships, but we couldn't sustain our relationships because we didn't understand how the hologram worked. So you're in total love in the beginning, and then little by little, month after month, or year after year, stuff gets swept under the carpet because we weren't given the tools to navigate through clearing frequencies and energies and wounds. So one of two things happens. You either separate, and then you don't like the other person unless you're a little bit more advanced, or you stay together because you're in fear that you can't find something better. Pretty kind of shitty outcomes on both ends. So this is the invitation to come join us and get a real download, a real clarity on how frequencies work, and go through the book and the trainings. There's a weekly PowerPoint training, and the 2-hour calls are freaking the best thing. They're the best. The mirroring that goes on is so incredibly powerful. And I'm just honored to be a part of it. And I'm honored by everybody that's gone through the course and put their trust in me, you know. And it took a long time to feel like, you know, I had something to share, you know the mind shit we go through. Am I worthy? You know, what are people going to think? You know, because, yeah, there's people I can't even talk about this stuff to. But I don't really worry about it because I don't try and project it onto anybody. And as a result of keeping my heart open and doing the best to keep my frequency in a really loving space all the time, I just attract the right people. We all do. We're attracting what we need to learn lessons. But again, I want to reiterate, fast track tool. Your greatest teachers, in many cases, are the people that trigger you and the people that you judge. And if you can develop the awareness to catch every judgment and every trigger, you will clear up your energetic frequency field so fast, and the things that will start showing up in your life will blow your mind. And that's the goal. That's what we're here to do. We're here to remember. The programming was freaking deep, huh? It's still going on. Today's 9/11. 18 years later, there's people that still haven't figured out that that was completely set up by our own government. I don't like to get into politics, but it's 9/11. And it just passed 11/11 for me. I love it. So for anybody that's still here or watches a replay, let's talk about frequencies in the body. I'm going to get my bowl going here because I've been a recording engineer for many years. Many of you know that. I'm a guitar player. And you know how music makes you feel. And it's all frequency. And every cell in our body is vibrating. And again, as I talked about at the very beginning of this, our thoughts, our words, and our emotions carry a frequency. Now, there's a term called innate intelligence that a friend of mine, Cryon, I don't know if you've listened to Cryon. Lee Carroll, he's from my hometown of San Diego. I've been listening to him for over 20 years. Kryon. If you want to get some really pure downloads, go to YouTube and type in Kryon and listen to what Lee channels. My bullshit meter has never picked up anything deceptive, negative, or it's very high level stuff. Decide for yourself. But he brought it to my attention, the term innate intelligence. So we've got trillions of cells in our body. They're active. They're alive. A huge percentage of our body is made out of water. You've seen what happens when people start putting frequencies on bowls of water, the vibration, and when they do it on plates with powder on it, in different frequencies and tones, begin to create sacred geometry on those plates. I hope this isn't too loud on my speaker. I don't think it is, but I'll try not to get too rowdy. Okay? So your innate intelligence. Every cell in your body is listening. It's tuning into these frequencies. And it's listening, believe it or not, to every thought and every word. And then you put an emotion on top of that, and your frequencies are resonating, vibrating, or picking up on whatever you're putting down. So this is why it's so important to track your thoughts, your words, judgments, clear them out. Every judgment's about you. If you can get that and download that and start to put it into your moment-to-moment daily awareness and practice it, everything in your life is going to shift. Priceless. Priceless. So, for anybody that's still with me, is there anybody out there? I'm going to do a little bit of this for myself because I love it. I've been connecting with people all over the world all day long, and I'm ready for a break. So I intend you found this valuable. I'm passionate about this, and I love it. And I'm only reminding myself, basically talking to myself in the mirror. And I don't know if you do any mirror work every day, but that seems to be difficult for a lot of people too, to look in the mirror and go, I love you so much. And then listen to the ego go, no, you don't. You're still not there yet. And whatever it is about your looks, or I know. But if you really want to raise your frequency, you'll be able to look in the mirror and go, I really love you. No matter what you've done, no matter what you've done in the past, I love you. Because that's who you are at your essence. Just tools. Share them all in the group. Come join us. Really. I'm not kidding. Be so glad you did. So, frequencies, innate intelligence. Do you thank every cell of your body every day? We teach everybody in the group course, as soon as they wake up from what we call, or what people call the sleeping dream, into the awakening dream. You're dreaming all the time. You know that, right? Hello, I'm in your dream. Yeah, Miguel taught us we're dreaming all the time. It's frequencies, it's energies. It's all going on. It's a good thing. It's super cool when you figure it out, because then you can use it to your advantage. And so, as soon as we awaken, we immediately go into gratitude. We commit to doing this every day, every day, every day. It's so wonderful. And if you have a job, you got to get up at a certain time, then you just set your alarm 15 minutes earlier. You go to bed 15 minutes earlier. Those that create their day first thing in the morning, before those 50 to 80,000 thoughts get running on repetition, in automatic judgment, automatic processing, all that, those that create their day consciously first thing in the morning, before the horses start running, lead completely different and more positive lives than those that just wake up and go, okay, I got to get ready for work. I got to put the coffee pot on. Oh shit, that's automatic recycling mode. And in our busy lives, you see people do yoga and you're like, oh, maybe yoga's not my thing. I wonder why they do that. It seems kind of weird. But I'll tell you what, getting into nature, stopping the repetitive thoughts and becoming present, conscious awareness. You hear me say this in my posts all the time in my shows. Conscious awareness is the only game in town. That and unconditional love. But unconditional love's kind of a given, but you can't get to unconditional love unless you're consciously aware of what thoughts and programs that you're constantly running, either consciously with your awareness or subconsciously underneath the surface. All right, we done? I'm done. I'm tired of talking. I'm tired of hearing myself. So, If you're still with me or on the replay, you can feel free to close your eyes if you don't need to get back to scrolling. That stuff will all wait for you on Facebook. That's the thing, taking time every day to just become quiet. You know how it feels to sit in nature by a babbling brook or a stream, to be around trees, to take your shoes off and feel your feet on the earth, to stare up at the clouds or the mountains. Why does that feel so good? Because we become present. Common sense for a lot of people, but since I'm speaking, it's an invitation. And so now we have an invitation. And as you listen to this, with your eyes open, closed, or whatever, tune in and see if you can be so thankful and loving and grateful to every one of these cells, your innate intelligence, trillions of cells. And my innate intelligence has taught me so much about true unconditional love. Most people think unconditional love is, oh, I love this person so much. Most people love a person so much if that person's doing all the things they like or that they love. But then if things change, they don't love them as much. That's not unconditional love. That's subjective love, okay? My innate intelligence and our innate intelligence loves us unconditionally in every single moment. And here's the aha moment. While we're sleeping and our body is resting, those trillions of cells, our innate intelligence, are unconditionally loving us in every moment. And that is their only job. Purifying our blood, running our organs, having us breathe while we're asleep. Come on. There's nothing more incredible than that, except for the universe that we've also co-created. So, as I wrap off these frequencies and stir the pot here a little bit, if you're still with us, the invitation is to go in and really focus and see how much love and gratitude you can pour onto your innate intelligence in these trillions of cells that do nothing but love you in every single moment. To me, that's just mind-blowing. And that teaches me about unconditional love. And so I tune into those every single morning as soon as I wake up, before I put one foot on the floor to get out of bed. And I've trained myself to do that every single day, and it's completely changed my life. So here we go. It's gratitude. Trillions of cells doing nothing but loving you in every moment. I like to think of every cell from the very top of my head, my crown, and even above. Feel into that, and then feel into every part of my body, every organ, all the way down to my toes, and see how deeply I can get in touch with my body. Not just in the mind. See how deeply you can feel. This is all about tuning into your frequency and learning how to monitor it in each moment. Priceless. Thanking every cell, gratitude. The women can do this really easy. The guys might think this is not manly, but that's just their program that's keeping them from actually taking full advantage of life. So I invite the men, drop your guard if it's up. Most of the people that follow me are heart-centered guys anyway, but I've coached a lot of men and they think stuff like this is for pussies. A lot of them do anyway. It's cool. Yeah, just loving that innate intelligence. Tuning into your frequency. It's morning time for a lot of my friends out there. in the US. So create your day. The invitation is to create your day. Put that into your schedule every morning to begin spending at least 10 to 15 minutes envisioning your day while you're still laying in bed. Don't get out of bed. Don't get on the yoga mat. Do it before you step out of bed. Otherwise, the horses are going to start running and your thoughts are going to go. You'll lose the power of the present moment. Think about what you're creating and see it is already happening. You're going to smile at everybody. Magic and miracles show up in your life. And it's not even really magic and miracles when you understand frequency. It's just the like frequencies show up in your life and it seems like a miracle. Own your power. Own your divine sovereign right. This is what you came here to remember. Just thankful to every cell. And then put a smile on top of whatever you're thinking. And notice that your frequency goes up an entire another notch. Just put a smile on top of that. Check it out. You probably only do it if your eyes are closed, but these are all little tools that'll shift your entire reality if you practice them with present awareness. And get yourself a bowl like this and gong yourself every day from head to toe. Tell me if that doesn't create an amazing shift for you. Thanks everybody for tuning in, sharing all the great feedback. And again, I want to put out the invitation again. If you'd like to get on a free discovery call, I'll put the link in the comments. And if you're even slightly interested, if I've piqued your interest about the depth of what we cover in the next Waking Up in the Dream group, it starts Sunday, reach out. I'm not going to try and sell you anything. I don't want you to come in unless you're pumped, because we're creating an incredible vortex of incredible, not only positive energy, but also healing energy. Because we get vulnerable, we go into deep stuff. But it's such a safe space that you don't have to worry about a thing. You're going to make the greatest friends in the world. And it's limited to 10 people or less. So you're going to get a lot of time on the calls, not just listening. Listening doesn't create shifts. Mirroring and asking the deeper question and seeing and dismantling the programs, those are lifetime shifts. And an honor to connect with myself. And if anybody else is out there, that's cool too. Enjoy your day or evening wherever you are. Much love.